Today, we're looking at a brown ink by Sheaffer Brown. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, if you like brown inks, down in the description is a link to the playlist for all of the brown inks that have been covered. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share those results with you. To standardize some of the writing samples, Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia are always used. Let's take a look at the first one, 90 GSM Clairfontaine. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub. With no feather, spread, halo sheen, it is shading. Look at how Fox goes from lighter to darker. Jumps goes from lighter to darker. Quick goes dark to light to dark and 5 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine with no feather, spread, halo sheen, better shading going on here. Brown goes dark to light to dark. Fox goes from light to dark, over from light to dark. Lazy is ridiculous in how much it's changing its shading within the same letter, like that letter L is very dark in the bottom, light in the middle, and dark at the top, and it does this throughout that whole word. 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both aren't showing very much color variation, although there's plenty in the writing, and the smear test you could likely recover it if you smeared while you were writing. The second standard paper is 52 GSM Tomoe River. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather, spread, halo sheen. It does shade. Look at how quick goes from light to dark. The goes from light to dark. Fox, light to dark. Jumps, light to dark. You get what I'm saying here? 7 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine. With no feather, spread, halo sheen, it does shade. Fox goes from medium tone to light to dark. Brown goes from medium to light to dark. Jumps goes from light to dark. 12 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both don't show tons of color variation, but they're there, and it is there in the writing. And the smear test, you could probably recover this if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down and it's immediately put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see it's very red for a brown. Now it pushes its way up, and when it gets darker, it does become a red leaning brown, but still very red to look at. The one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's dunked into water. And if it wasn't marked, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the two, which makes me feel there's not going to be any real resistance for this ink. The last standard paper is 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, or it does shade some. Look at the end of the N, and the quotes are much darker. Sheaffer, the ER is darker than the F's next to it. There is a little bit here, not tremendous, but some. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub, with no feather, spread, halo sheen. It shades pretty nice. Fox goes from light to dark. Brown goes from dark to light. Quick goes from dark to light to dark. 4 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather, spread, halo sheen, decent shading, as Fox goes from light to dark, Jumps goes from light to dark. Not too bad. 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show some color variation, and we are getting it in the writing, and the smear test says you can likely recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing. Looking at the highlighter, it performed much better there than I was really expecting based on the chromatography. I do feel confident using this in a note-taking situation as a result of it. I find the swatch that's being looked at here very interesting because you do see that it is brown and red. Just as an aside, water is completely reactivating and lifting this off the page. There's a little bit of a pink tone left, but it only had 30 seconds to get at it. Pen Flush does everything that water does and not a whole lot more, and the 1/3 bleach solution does completely remove it, but it only took water for me to get this out of my pen. The paper is changed up on the additional writing samples to make sure that there's more than just a limited experience with these inks. This next paper is Fabriano Eco Qua. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, spots of shading like the K in Quick, X in Fox. The word the is certainly darker than the word quick. 3 seconds to dry. Medium is just a tad darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, nice shading. Dog is much darker than the word brown. Quick starts as a mid-tone and gets very dark at the K. Fox starts light and gets dark, 5 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show a little bit of color variation, not a ton. It's better in the writing itself. And the smear test says you can likely recover it if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Sheaffer Brown has a viscosity of 2.64, making it normal. If you're interested in how the viscosity tests are done and how the bell curve's created, then there's a link to that video down in the description. The next writing sample is done on Leuchtturm 1917 paper. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, spots of shading like the R in Sheaffer, N in Brown. The extra fine is just a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, better spots of shading. Quick goes from dark to midtone to dark again. Brown goes from dark to midtone to dark. Fox starts light and gets dark, 7 seconds to dry. Medium is a little bit darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, still some decent shading. Fox starts lighter and gets darker. Quick goes from a dark tone to a lighter tone to a much darker tone. Not bad here, 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show some color variation, and we are getting it. In the smear test, I don't think you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Sheaffer Brown has an average dry time of 7 seconds. 7. That's faster than some fast dry inks by other manufacturers. The last writing sample is done on a memoranda pad, like I would have carried when I was in the Marines. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. That medium at the top has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is just a tad lighter than the medium, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 2 seconds to dry. The scrubby showing no color variation, but we don't get any, but the smear test says you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing, making it a good ink to use in one of these pads. Instead of finding inks that look like Sheaffer Brown, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now this is a very red-leaning brown, so I decided to go with something that's not going to create any problems, like a black ink, and I chose Cross Black. So what do I think of Sheaffer Brown? It is well behaved, and it does shade very nicely. It is not brown, it's red. So for that, I hate it. I don't say that often. I hate a color, but I hate this one. So what nib and pen would give the best writing experience with this ink? Now, it really does put down a decent tone and shade very well from just about every pen that I put it through. So with that, it's a dealer's choice for what kind of red you would like to get from this Sheaffer Brown. I hope you got something out of this video, and tomorrow we're going to take a look at Montblanc's John Swift.